Freedom to Transact by Ash Lightstone. The freedom to transact is the freedom to be. It means I don't need your permission to do as I please and just be me. It's a freedom that we should all have, without any conditions we have no say in. There shouldn't be any strings attached or any rhetoric about it being a sin. It's a freedom that allows us all to be equal in a manner that is profoundly meaningful, and for that reason they tell us it's dangerous. They say there's no way for it to be purposeful. When others don't want us to have this freedom, we have to stop and ask why. We have to ultimately see that it's about control, and that their so-called protection is a lie. This is the ultimate freedom, the most significant one. All others are built on top of this, and without this, no other freedoms can be won. Freedom to transact. 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 Freedom to transact.
Ah, there you go. Love that one. Sorry for the delay tonight. Had a few things going on. Had a interesting few days. Today we launched the OB1 collection, which is the first of its kind collection of wave file, so high resolution audio, the highest resolution audio inscribed on Bitcoin. Maximum file sizes. Every OB1 is really pushing the limits between 350 and 400 kilobytes per file. We've inscribed the tone.js library. All sorts of stuff is going on. But firstly, I wanted to just show you some of the tricks that you can do with the OB1s. The collection, let me just go to the main page here. Just cropped here. So if we go to the main Magic Eden page, and you can see, oh, what am I doing? It's all gone wrong. So going to Magic Eden, and we can see here that the OB1's auction is open. So here it is, first piece. It's the 808 bass kick drum inscribed onto a Block 78 palindrome Satoshi. We thought it was quite cool to put the 808 on there, seeing as that's also a palindrome. So you can see here is the auction page. But if you go to the actual collection page here, you can see the rest of them here, and if you open these up in tabs, you can play them. I just did a little had a little jam just waiting for the show to start, which I'm just going to play now, so you can see what I'm talking about. This one here, isn't it? Yes, have a little listen to this. See what you can do with these in tabs. Playing music live. yeah, so there you go. So that's mixing it live in my tabs in my browser on Magic Eden, just on the marketplace. No arrangement window, no other equipment. Everything we're using to make the sounds there is on chain. The SPD will eventually be on chain, but right now that's a purely on chain exercise right there. I was just accessing the files that have their own built-in DAW-like properties, so they have their own fixed tempos which can be changed. You could hear I was adjusting the volumes in there. They've got their own built-in volume adjustment, all just keyboard shortcuts, so they can be turned up and down. You can change their tempo, you can change their scheduling within that tempo, so they play twice, or you can double the amount of triggers within a 4-bar loop. There's a lot of extra built-in stuff there. You've got a playback speed adjustment, which you can use as a kind of crude pitch shifter, which you could hear me playing around with. So that's all just done with just 10 sounds that have been inscribed as part of the Obi-Wan collection, and they yes, the auction, as you can see, it's running here, so there's 18 hours left, and these are just some very special, these are seeds for a future musical landscape that exists purely on chain and is basically just built out of pure guaranteed attribution for any role. It's not just for the creatives or the musicians. This is of benefit to platforms that can also exist on chain and become part of the DNA of a song. Imagine having a song and being able to just look at the song and it could tell you which platform it was produced in. Was it made using Logic or Ableton, Fruity Loops, GarageBand, which plugins were used? It all becomes intertwined in the story of the song. It's not like in the olden days where we transferred the media from one place to another between the mix and the mastering, and then from the mastering to broadcast, all of these things being kind of exchanging the product by hand with no thread other than trust. And this new environment that we're looking at here is the absolute antithesis of all of that. Everything has a permanent place. It has a start and a middle and an end, and that end can be another start again, but you cannot break them apart. It's kind of hard to convey the enormity of this, but I think once we start getting, everything we're producing here is with the Audional SPD and the sequencer. This being the sequencer, this is a bit more more professional musicians might recognize something like this, but all of this, the sequencer and the SPD, has just been built by one person. And really what we need is development talent coming in, seeing an opportunity here to build on top of things like this, and then to start building synthesizers, reverb units, even the boring stuff, compressors, gates, all of that stuff. We're so accustomed to using these tiny little applications on our computers, and I don't, it's really not such a leap of the imagination to realize that you can take those literally kilobytes sized files in perfect modular way, build this never-ending, growing, shared production suite that exists on chain and actually passes on all of the security benefits of Bitcoin to the musicians and the products they make. It's kind of phenomenal that I find myself here, having looked for this for so long. In fact, we had a great chat this afternoon with on the Obi-Wan show. It was episode number 1, and we had a really great chat. I actually got a little bit emotional at one point, just because it feels like people are kind of ready to take this on board now. I think there are still some people who don't understand or doubt what's going on, but I think for those who really have been musicians for the last couple of decades, and they understand that a lot of musicians do work entirely in the digital realm now, that this whole idea of being able to use all of that framework inside the Bitcoin network, where everything suddenly becomes linked into this Merkle tree of rights. And then, like I said, every song ends up becoming a testament to every single moving part that made it, not just the bass and the drums and the vocals and all the extra parts that go into it, but actually the plugins, the reverbs, the synthesizers. Every single note is recorded as having come from a specific Bitcoin address. You can literally count how many times that kick drum was used in that song. Not just was it used in that song, how many times did it play in that song? What effects were on it? Who owns those effects? All of it becomes amazingly transparent, and the perfect dream framework for the international performing rights organizations to use to perform the job that they've struggled to perform for decades. It's the perfect system, and not only that, it creates a payment framework that puts the artist or the owner of each of those items, each of those elements of a song, at the end of the payment channel. So there's no need for any middlemen, which, for those who understand music or the music industry, it's a bit of a problem. It's such an opaque, complicated world to exist in. We have no choice but to employ a host of people to help us navigate our way to our royalties, if we can get there at all. And if we do get there, we can consider ourselves lucky to have spent 50, 60, 70, 80% of it on getting the 20% that we got at the end. And so this really does flip that coin, and I can't wait until the day when we actually see real world enforcement of royalties going down these payment channels, creating a world and a financial model that, with the creator literally at the center. I'm not just talking about on a pedestal, but financially at the center, where every other hanger on, or, I mean, obviously there's lots of useful, guess I'm calling them middlemen, but there's lots of useful people who do still sit between a musician and their money, but they perform other tasks, and those things will still be useful, but now they get to just send their invoice to the creator, just like it should be, to get paid for helping the creator to distribute or promote their work, but not leaving the creator on the other side of the wall from the money. It's amazing. But anyway, so you should go and have a listen to this Obi-Wan show. We spoke for a couple of hours, in fact, but it was really great, just to sort of be getting it out there and telling people about it. But I'm still pretty stunned at how few people know about this. Every time we have one of these discussions, it feels like more and more people sort of get it, and they start to slowly come round to to what's going on here. You know, it's a bit like selling Bitcoin to people 10 years ago. It was hard, and it was very hard getting people to really see that there was something else going on here beneath the surface of what appeared to just be another fad in stocks or shares or something, but just to really say no, there's something beyond that, something beyond understanding, or something beyond language in a way, something almost ethereal. It's like a force, and that was the thing I sort of got from Bitcoin. And this now, we finally are able to take that and mold that power into something that is now going to provide tooling for creatives, for musicians. Obviously, we've seen the visual arts, certainly the static visual arts, done very well out of blockchain and Bitcoin, but now we can start to see not only music, but, you know, moving images. There's so much more to come. Just having worked in this space with Audionals for the first year, the first files I was inscribing were still fairly small, but then it became apparent very quickly that this was the new game. The new skill was compression. It was like, but not for music. For music, compression is not good. We don't want to compress the audio. If you can compress the data, that's very different. But you know, we've just seen so many leaps and bounds, and it's like now, because we're actually now starting to see. I think it was maybe Justin Blends popped in earlier to the show, and he was, oh no, was it someone else? But they were saying how this is what we're doing, is we're now getting to the point where we're able to actually start building tools like the libraries that are being inscribed on Bitcoin. OB1 number 11, which is this guy here. Beautiful piece. I love the fact that it looks a bit like a kind of a network of sorts, you know, and it just made me think, this is like, that looks a bit like nodes. And so this one here has a tiny audio file attached to it. It was the smallest audio file I could generate using base 64 text. It's basically a metronome. I think that's what we've named it internally. But the reason we had to do that is because this little guy here behind that image in the same inscription is the tone.js library, which I was kind of pleading with the communities 6 months ago or something, to get inscribed, because I knew it was going to be very costly. It's a big file, but we managed to squeeze it in. It's 384 kilobyte file. We managed to squeeze it in, along with the usual controls for the tempo and the scheduling and the volume and the pitch. What's that sound like with pitch? So all of these, that sounds like a clock actually. But all of these things are built in, but the real beauty of this OB1 number 11 is the fact that inside there is the tone.js library, and it's ready to give out to any application on chain on the Bitcoin blockchain that requests it. So not only have I been trying to promote people trying to start doing this stuff, but now we've actually put the library there. So now you really don't have an excuse. Even if you're not a developer, if you've got half an interest in this stuff and access to GPT, then you could be making synthesizers with tone.js in minutes, because the whole point of these libraries, just like the 3JS library that the on-chain monkeys inscribed a few months ago, this is the building blocks. And libraries allow innovation, they allow building of new things. And so all of this is becoming just the most perfect, fertile landscape for an explosion of new applications designed explicitly to work in the Web3 environment, to pass that power of blockchain onto anyone who chooses to work within the realm of blockchain using these tools. And so that I'm just super excited about that, because I've made a lot of synths. I've inscribed a couple. They were inscribed a long time ago, so they're not really built to work with the sequencer. But so the new ones will be built to insert into the sequencer. I I don't know if I've really shown people how to use this much, but you can load audio files into all of these channels. So I can go and search for audio files here. You can find, you know, any audio that you like here, you know. So I could, for example, just go and take this guy, which is one of the rare Skrilla songs, and I can just grab the ordinal ID from up here and paste it into here. And you can see here we've got IPFS. I'm opening this up. This will be working for things like stacks soon as well. We'll be adding stacks inscription, so it's not, you don't have to work on Bitcoin, but it will be a bridge, so you can get your audio on to the layer 2, and then if you really want to distribute on the Bitcoin chain, it'll be much easier to bridge it over from there. So we can load that, and then if you go into, I can name that channel if I wanted to, but if we go into the actual trim window here, you can see this is the full audio file that we've just loaded from the chain. And I can trim that, so I could find a section that I really wanted. I don't know why it's not the best one to select, but then you can, this is what I was talking about earlier with regards to pulling something out of a song and then reusing it, so I can then sample that. I can change the tempo up here, and yeah, it's really not the best example here, but you can get the idea. So you get the idea. So you can go in, you can go and load more and more samples, you can go across, get all these things out of here, but of course all of this audio is the early, you know, this is all super compressed. This is kind of why OB1s exist, because you need high quality audio in order to really build this stuff. We can't just be working with compressed audio forever. You know, we need to have all the tools to do this stuff, and this is one collection. OB1, there's going to be 100 of these, 100 high resolution, the highest resolution audio that we can fit into. I mean, it is the highest resolution, it's the length that is the problem. You know, like I said, the crash was quite hard getting that in there. It's a 3.5 second file. It almost filled the ordinal on itself. Took a lot of work to get that in there, knowing that we weren't going to compress the audio at all. It's not an option for this project. In fact, something that is going to start happening probably in the next few sets of OB1s is we're going to start using the FLAC audio format. FLAC is a lossless compression, which means it doesn't change the audio at all. It is just effectively compressing the binary data rather than affecting the audio. It doesn't affect it at all. So you can take a high quality WAV file, say a kick or a snare, which might be 100 kilobytes or 150 kilobytes, and as a FLAC it'll be 80 kilobytes, and that also is just instantly playable within the Web Audio API and tone.js. So we already, now that we've got Web Audio API, but now especially that we've got the tone.js on there, you can actually start working with new audio formats without restricting the quality of your audio. So yeah. think what I was going to do was have a little go on the SPD and then probably call it a day. It's been quite a long few days. We have got some pretty exciting stuff coming up. I have been working on inscribing the playback engine for this, which then means that any songs that can be written on the sequencer can then be inscribed effectively as tiny files. Initially, the raw files, when you save a file from the sequencer here, it saves it as a JSON file. It saves all the settings. It saves the URLs of the audio. It saves all of these step positions where they're triggered. It saves the trim settings. It'll save any pitch and other settings that you might put on there, pitch shifts, and all these things that we can start now building with tone.js can now start to be applied within these trim windows. And so you'll be able to start adding effects and all these sorts of things, and it's all captured in this tiny text file, which even for a 10-minute song it was originally 700 kilobytes, which is still fairly large, a lot smaller than it would be in its full resolution WAV format. You're talking 70 or 80 megabytes. So, I mean, what is that? 1,000 times smaller. So it's a good start, but then through reducing the size of these settings files, which sometimes they record too much data. For example, this row along here would have said that this step is active, and then it would say that these 63 steps were inactive. And so with a little algorithm, we can tell the code to say, don't write 63 inactives, just have a little code that just says, if I see active in any step on the array, then I just play that, but I don't have to record the data. And so by doing that and a few other tricks, I've got those files now down to 20 kilobytes, but my target is 3 kilobytes per song. So it's think about that. And this is the master song. This isn't the player that you can distribute. I know we spoke to someone earlier in the show who was very interested about the pointing out this difference between how we consume art as traditional art and traditional NFT art, if you will, as well, because that's not been traditionally audio based or music, but it's seen as a store of value, whereas music it seems to be much more consumable. And so we really need, for musicians to really thrive in this environment, they need distribution. It's not about working up the value of these rare pieces. It's about being able to distribute to your audience who want more and more and more. But that has to be affordable, and so that's where obviously the price becomes very important. This is why I set about trying to figure out these new ways to compress not the audio, but to compress the processes, compress the data that explains how to form this song. Just if you imagine your files, if you use Logic or a GarageBand, anything like this, when you're working in that environment, you're just queuing up a set of sequence commands that when you re-execute them, they faithfully replicate whatever settings you've put in place. Like these. So, that's just going to faithfully reproduce what I've asked it to do, and it will do it forever as long as that file isn't corrupted. And if that file is on the Bitcoin blockchain, as is the engine for playing it, then you can now take that song file, which is now like sheet music. It's your sheet music master that lives in your wallet. You can combine it with the engine that is another file, another inscription on the chain, and then you can combine those two elements with a tiny HTML file, which I've currently got down to about 0.2 of a kilobyte. And that's how you distribute. That's how musicians can take their work and distribute it, not the usual prices that art might be distributed on chain, but for the regular price of music, but in this on-chain Web3 environment. But you know, what is a 0.2 of a kilobyte? It's probably 20 or 30 cents. So for someone who wants to distribute their music to their fans, that suddenly becomes much more viable, and not forgetting that the player, because it's recursive, it's pulling a song into an engine and presenting it in a very small file that is a one of one that can be owned by fans but listened to as well, and also create these amazing channels between musician and fan for communication as well as payment channels. But they can distribute at a price that actually is profitable and good value compared to actual real world, you know, the way it works anywhere else. But suddenly it's just purely between the musicians and their fans. What I'm going to do is going to jump on the SPD for a bit. I'm so tired, I'm running out of ideas. Right, I'm just going to have a little play on this, and then I'll probably call it a night. But thanks again for joining. See how well this goes, and see you on the next one. Hopefully I'll have some guests back next week, and we'll do a bit more chatting about what's going on with the OB1s, with the new stuff, and hopefully I'll have these inscriptions working, and then things will really start to fly once people realize they can inscribe at that price and distribute. So bring it on. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that this is the SPD, audionals.com/audspd. It loads like this. It just loads one of each of the OB1s. It does give you some instructions down here. Again, I've just designed this myself, so it's not the best UI, but it's functional. And you can see here that you've got these instructions down here. So it's telling you, you can change the speed of the loop of this one by using the plus and the minus keys. You do have to click in the iframe to sort of select it. I have got these selections up here. I haven't really got them properly implemented yet, but you'll be able to select groups so that you can, for example, do group mutes, or solo, things like that. So it'll make it a lot easier for kind of mixing. But yeah, so you can see here, these were the keys that I was using in the tabs when I was playing with them in the tabs. This is how I was controlling them. That spacebar is how you can play live with the spacebar. But what I was going to say is the fun thing is the random mix here, because rather than playing around with all of that, you can just hit random and you get a total random mix. Every time you press it, it's just going to give you a totally new random mix of different instruments with different scheduling. They're all the same tempo, so these will all still be 78 BPM. If I want to work in a faster tempo, I can just go in here. This is another benefit to having them in one page, is I can do this, and now all of them have been moved to their internal programming has now been updated to 120 BPM, so I don't have to go through each one of them and say you're now playing at 120 BPM. So I can do that en masse in the SPD, which is another really good benefit to using this. But yeah, hit the random mix button and then have a play.